Today I'm going to show you how to analyze modes we've seen in the 3 videos before this one, how to first understand modes coming from major scale. The second video I showed you all the modes starting from the same note, and in the third video I show you how to understand the modes comparing them to a major scale starting from the same note. In this fourth video about modes, I'll show you how to understand, how to recognize progressions, like just a string of chords that are modal, that underline a modal environment, so to speak, so that not only, because of course modes by themselves are just just scales that you can do much with them. Modes are great when you can use them to maybe create a solo, create a guitar part on a modal sequence. So I'll show you how to recognize these basic progressions, basic sequences, and I'll show you on a close up. Let's start with C Ionian. Alright, if we're talking about C Ionian, anything that is in C major, the major scale is not really considered a mode. It is a mode in itself, C Ionian, but it's not really anything that you will probably won't recognize automatically when you hear a song in C major. Probably the most basic is 1-5-1, let's say C major 7, G7, or some kind of G. That's F over G. Let's just go to the Dorian mode. It's probably something slightly different. Anything that is D minor and then E minor, so 2 successive minor chords, that's usually a Dorian mode. In this case, this is D minor, E minor. I'm sure you know countless tunes like that, like Impressions. So there are quite a few in a rock context. I would probably think of Oyo Komova by Santana. This is A minor, D7, D9, some kind of dominant chord. So you see it's 2-5, and this is of course A Dorian. We're talking about G major, the second degree of G major. That's Dorian progression. It wouldn't sound right to play, you see A minor and you probably play C major. That wouldn't sound right, because that C major has an F natural. When I go to D7, D7 has an F sharp in it. So okay, so that's why that's the right scale, the right mode. So I'm talking about A minor Dorian, which is again the second degree of G major. Okay, so just to show that modes are not just don't belong to the jazz world. There are so many examples of modal chords and modal chord progressions in pop and funk, in rock as well. So Phrygian, again, this is probably quite typical progression, E and F, but keeping the E on the bass as a pedal. So if I keep that open E string, anything that has that kind of flat 2. Probably a lot of point shorter, chicoria. There are quite a few examples. Of course, I'll make a list of example on my website, playgtr.co.uk. Just visit on the same page where you will find this video. You'll find probably a list of tune that have examples of modal progressions. Let's keep going. Let's try and find a progression for F Lydian. Probably the most popular one is again just the 2 consecutive chords, keeping the pedal note F. So in my harmonized scale, I will have F and G major, F major, F G major. Good example, if I play in C, so that will be C, and D major. You recognize if you're rock guitarist. This is the beginning of Flying the Blue Dream by Joseph Triani. It hits right away that F sharp, which is the sharp 11 in C Lydian. This, of course, is an example. C Lydian is the fourth mode of G major. If I keep going down to G, you will hear the G major scale. So again, C Lydian, that's an example in C Lydian, where we said Joseph Triani Flying the Blue Dream. So on Aeolian, Mixolydian, missed one. G Mixolydian. Again, there are loads and loads. Anytime you see a dominant chord, a G7 by itself for a few bars, you could use it in a blues and in the first 4 bars of a blues. A good example is a lot of kind of funk stuff, like stuff like that, all the James Brown, Sex Machine. That's a good example of a Mixolydian modal tune. Then again, A minor is Aeolian. This is the 6th degree. There are loads of sequences, like probably a good one is not played very well, but the Santana, that's Europa. I think it's actually in D Aeolian, the original. Then you have Locrian. Locrian probably is more a chord that can be used as a transition. So in a chord sequence like a 2-5-1 in minor, I don't really have good examples of a Locrian modal progression in terms of where the modal is used by itself. The modal is used by itself, like B Locrian, but that's the 2-5 minor could be a good example of where to use the Locrian as a modal. Modal scale.